Hi, here's a review for Our Little Lives by Sue Watson. A little bit about the book. Simply, it's a book mature publication, and it was released this week. I was part of a blog tour for this book, and I'm really glad that I read it. But before I even tell you how I felt about it, let me at least give you the publisher's description. Marianne has a life others dream of, a beautiful townhouse on the best street in the neighborhood, three bright children who are her pride and joy. Sometimes her past still hurts, losing her mother, growing up in foster care. But her husband Simon is always there. A successful surgeon, he's the envy of every woman they've ever met. Flowers, gifts, trips to France, nothing is too good for his family. Then Simon says another woman's name. The way he lingers on it, Caroline, gives Marianne a shudder of suspicion. But she knows she can't entertain the flash of paranoia. In the old days, she'd have distracted herself at work, but Marianne left her glamorous career behind when she got married. She speaks to a friend, but she's too busy with her children, and besides, Simon doesn't approve of the few friends she has left. It's almost by accident that Marianne begins to learn more about Caroline. But once she starts, she can't stop. Because what she finds makes her wonder whether the question she should be asking is not should she be jealous, but should she be scared? Fans of The Girl of the Train and I Let You Go looking for a dark, gripping psychological thriller with a final twist that will put a jaw on the floor will love Our Little Lies. Now that part is from the publisher as well. Now, here's my review. First of all, I gave the book 4.5 stars. It is the publication date, as I mentioned, this week, October 11th. Now, I read this book about a week ago, so I may refer to my notes. I hate to tell you, but I have to refer to my notes. But I'll simply start off by saying that Mary Ann is a stay-at-home mom to a brilliant heart surgeon named Simon. They have three kids. At one point, Marianne had a successful career, but now she really relishes her role as a wife and mother. That's on the surface. Deep down, she's a battered woman who's experiencing problems on many levels. Simon is a controlling husband, and that's putting it mildly. He controls her so much that his thoughts become her thoughts, almost to the degree that she actually thinks like him, sometimes even doubting or even forgetting her own original thoughts. This book, Our Little Lives, made me think of the movie Gaslight with Charles Boyer and Ingrid Bergman. In the film, Boyer systematically tries to drive the wife out of her mind. As a matter of fact, the term gaslighting has come to mean psychologically manipulating someone into believing that they have lost their mind. I was so intrigued by this thought that this book reminded me of the movie that I stopped reading the book, looked up the movie, downloaded it from Amazon, and watched the 1944 classic. Right after I watched the film, I stayed up and I finished the book. Now, there are obvious and numerous differences between the book and the story, quite naturally. The primary difference in this is that there is another woman that's embroiled. Yes, her name is Caroline, as was already mentioned. As far as Marianne and Simon's lives are concerned, they've been married 10 years. She thinks, on some level, she thinks she's leading the best or the most ideal life. While she should be happy, we begin to learn that she really isn't. She's anything but a happy woman. Although she spent many, many years devoted to her husband and to her family, she often has a lot of doubts that make her not sure about things. She even goes so far as to wonder whether it's herself she should doubt, medication that she's on, or could it be something even worse, such as whether or not Simon is actually having an affair with this woman named Caroline, and what, just that whole scenario. Is she imagining things or is she not? Now, again, I want to mention that this is where I started to think about the film, because there was one particular point in the story actually that made me think about the movie. Simon gets home from work earlier one day when Marianne and the kids were coming home from after school activities. Marian was immediately alarmed that, oh my goodness, dinner is not ready. Simon was going to be livid. So she tries to break the ice by saying, well, hon, Simon, you told me that you had a surgery scheduled today. He says, really? Yeah, just one word, really. That is enough to make her believe that, well, wait a minute, maybe he didn't tell her he had a surgery. Maybe she didn't hear him correctly. So what does Simon do? Well, he gently drives the doubt home. Once he drives that nail in just a little bit, that's all he needs. I have to stop and say something here. I did not like Simon. He was smug, he was charming, yeah, he was irresistible. But what was a couple of things that I didn't like about him? Well, he consistently called her paranoid. He was violent. Okay? He undermined her in front of the children. Those are things about Simon that I did not like, among other things. Well, what about Marianne? Well, of course I felt for her. I was very drawn to her. She was emotionally broken. And now she's living with this apparent paranoia. Um, could it really be paranoia? Or what was it that she wasn't able to control in her life? Well, at some point she meets Caroline, and right away she knows, okay, I'm not imagining things. Things are the way that they seem to be. But Simon keeps saying to her, I've given you everything, but everything isn't good enough for you, is it? Is it? No. He thinks that she's crazy, and he wants her to think that she's crazy. So I have to quote from the book again, and this is when the tables turn in the story. The quote reads, Welcome to my world, Simon. Hashtag gaslighting for girls. Oh yes, the movie. I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. She wakes up. The question is it too late? Has she woken up too late in her own life, in her own story, and everything that boils around it, round and round? She takes on a thrilling course of action. The question is, will things pan out? Needless to say, I was captivated by this book. I gave it 4.5 stars, but the review's not due for a couple more days, so I may even ramp it up to a 5. I will say that it was very difficult to witness the abuse that Simon lashed out against Marianne. I think knowing the movie in the back of my mind kind of made it to the point where I could deal with it, so to speak. Another reason I kept on is I kept waiting for the aha moment. It had to come. The question is, would it come in time? Now, as riveting as this book is, I will say that the shocker, the true shocker, comes at the very, very end. This is a true psychological thriller by Sue Watson. It's my first read by her, but most certainly won't be my last. She has a lot to say, and she's very good at what she does. Needless to say, there are 2 trigger warnings. It may not be needless, but I will say there are two trigger warnings in this story. That of mental health and also domestic violence. I want to thank Bookature and NetGalley for this arc because I was able to read it. I was able to really enjoy the book, such as it is, or be that as it may. I think it was a great read. It was a great thriller, and I look forward again to reading more about this author. Anyway, that's it. I'll link the written review below in the description. I'll also link the Amazon link to purchase the book should you decide to grab it. I'll mention briefly that as an Amazon affiliate, should you purchase the book, then a few pennies will go to my Amazon account. But again, it won't affect you as the purchaser of the book. Don't miss Our Little Lies. If you like psychological thrillers, then this is a book you're going to like to read. I am looking at the clock. This is one of my longest reviews yet. I hope I haven't bored you. Please don't miss this book. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.